I have inadvertently stepped into a tale of anguish, where I find myself requesting a loan from a domineering CEO. He embraces the radiant beauty beside him, his expression devoid of warmth. For the removal of a single article of clothing, I shall grant you 10,000. Elated, I promptly shed my 2 socks and toss them in his direction. Then let it be 20,000 for 2. I have entered a narrative of suffering, becoming the female protagonist who has been married to the CEO for 3 years, yet remains a mere figure in name. Within the pages of the book, I am infatuated with the CEO, Gusinian, but under the interference of his beloved, Linuru, he harbors profound misunderstandings towards me. He employs every means to humiliate me, and I endure it all with gritted teeth. I have not perused the latter half of the story and remain ignorant of its conclusion, for the preceding chapters are filled with the relentless torment of the female lead, rendering it unbearable to continue. According to the storyline, today I must solicit a sum of 100,000 from Gusinian, only to be subjected to his and Linuru's scornful humiliation. I am reluctant to go, yet a mechanical voice echoes in my mind. Host, you must adhere to the plot. Otherwise, you shall face compulsory punishment. Startled, I realize that I am bound to a system, and although I am unaware of the nature of the punishment, it sounds terrifying. With no other option, I hail a taxi to seek out Gusinian. Arriving at an upscale private club, I find him engaged in a gathering with friends. I steel myself and enter the private room, where the lively chatter abruptly falls silent. Gusinian reclines on a leather sofa, a cigar perched between his lips, his stern visage obscured by a veil of smoke. Upon my entrance, he furrows his brow and casts a disdainful glance in my direction. This is not a place for you. Leave at once. I have no desire to be here either. I retort with an eye roll, extending my hand towards Gusinian. Gusinian, lend me 100,000, and I shall depart immediately. Gusinian appears momentarily taken aback, yet before he can respond, Linuru, his beloved, mocks. What's wrong? The once illustrious daughter of the Yen family cannot even muster 10,000 now. How shameless to beg for money. How despicable. Gusinian remarks, his fingers gripping the cigar, the ember flickering as he coldly regards me before suddenly speaking. Money can be arranged, but for the removal of an article of clothing, I shall offer you 1,000. A cacophony of whistles erupts around me, and I glance around in astonishment. There are at least a dozen individuals present in the room, all male aside from Linuru. How audacious. Gusinian certainly plays a daring game. With a toss of my hair, I cast him a flirtatious glance. Very well, but do not renege on your word. With that, I decisively remove my sneakers, shedding my 2 socks and hurling them towards Gusinian's face. Let's start with 20,000. 1 sock lands in Linuru's wine glass, while the other rests on Gusinian's shoulder, his astonishment evident as his cigar tumbles to the ground. As October ushers in the autumn season, I find myself clad in a simple pair of jeans and a white shirt, with a trench coat draped over my shoulders. Upon shedding both the coat and shirt, I realize an unsettling truth. Beneath it all, I am left with merely a vest. Counting my underwear and socks, I am adorned with a total of just 8 articles of clothing. I glare at Gusinian with a mix of indignation and despair. If I were to strip completely, that would amount to only 80,000. How am I to procure the remaining 20,000? Do you expect me to pluck my own feathers? A sudden fit of laughter from Gusinian's friend causes him to choke on his drink, while Gusinian's expression darkens, transforming into a thunderous scowl. Linuru, meanwhile, covers her mouth, stifling her laughter. Goodness, Yen, you've truly lost all sense of shame. She places her glass on the coffee table and retrieves a plate of walnuts from nearby. How about this? If you can shell this plate of walnuts, I shall provide the 10,000. But tools are strictly off limits. I glance at the plate in her hand, filled with uncracked mountain walnuts, notoriously difficult to shell. A memory flashes through my mind, recalling how the protagonist once bled from her hands while attempting this, leaving everyone moved by her plight. The author's reasoning is indeed peculiar. I saunter over and plop down beside Linuru, swiftly snatching a walnut and popping it into my mouth. With a sharp crack, the walnut shatters in my palm, and I extract a few larger pieces of nut meat to hand to Linuru. Here, eat up. I quickly bite through 4 or 5 more nuts, while Linuru gazes in bewilderment at the saliva-covered walnut pieces in her hand, her expression twisting with distaste. Are you out of your mind? She exclaims, flinging her hand in frustration, causing her glass of red wine to topple over, the crimson liquid spilling onto her shoes. Frantically, she wipes at her palm with a tissue, glancing down at her soiled footwear, her fury escalating. Yen, was this intentional?
Cyan.
Look at what you've done to my shoes. Finally, Gu Sion turns his attention to me, his face devoid of emotion, yet his gaze is as frigid as ice. Lick her shoes clean, and I shall compensate you. This demand is undeniably perverse, and I have no desire to comply. Just as I prepare to stand, the system suddenly alerts me. Host, failure to follow the plot will result in mandatory punishment. Reluctantly, I crouch beside Lin Yuru, who sits with her legs crossed. Her black velvet stilettos positioned right in front of me. I find myself unable to bring myself to comply, cursing the system in my mind. Damn it. What kind of mandatory punishment is this? Bring it on. In the next instant, a jolt of electricity surges through my body, causing me to arch my back and instinctively scream. Ah. I discover that the mandatory punishment is an electric shock, and it is excruciatingly painful. I would rather endure anything than experience this again. What is licking a shoe in comparison? My earlier scream draws the astonished gazes of everyone present, while Gu Sion furrows his brow in concern. What are you shouting about? He demands. I quickly think on my feet, seizing Lin Yuru's foot in a desperate attempt to explain. It stinks. I'm so excited. The others react with shock. Lin Yuru lets out a scream, pulling her foot back. You're a freak. Gu Sion can no longer bear the scene. He pulls out a bank card from his pocket and tosses it onto the floor. Leave. Don't embarrass yourself here. I pick up the card, relief washing over me. System. It's not that I want to lick her shoes, but Lin Yuru won't allow it. This surely doesn't count as deviating from the plot, right? The system falls silent, and after a prolonged pause, it mechanically responds. Decisions made by characters in the story do not count as deviations from the main plot. So that opens up my options considerably. I breathe a sigh of relief, gather my clothes, slip on some sneakers, and exit the club into the torrential rain. I tighten my trench coat against the downpour as my phone buzzes incessantly in my pocket. Hello? Yen, did you get the money? Your father is waiting for surgery. The voice on the line belongs to my mother, once the illustrious lady of the Yen family, now cramped alongside my father in a tiny rented space. After the Yen family business went bankrupt, my father suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized. With all our assets frozen, I had no choice but to turn to Gu Sion for assistance. I find an ATM amidst the rain and transfer the funds to my mother, only to receive a disgruntled call. Why is it only 100,000? Your father's surgery will cost at least 500,000. What about the rest? I sigh in exasperation. All right, I'll find a way. Upon returning to the Gu family villa, I find that Gu Sion and I have been sleeping in separate rooms. The vast mansion houses him on the 3rd floor, while I reside on the 2nd. Seizing a moment when the maid is distracted, I sneak into Gu Sion's room, rummaging through his closet to uncover several watches, rings, and bracelets. This trove could easily fetch a few million. I can't fathom why the protagonist resorts to such hardship for loans. As I tuck the items into my clothing, the system chimes in discontentedly. Host, how could you steal? I glare at it. How can this be deemed stealing between spouses? Do you understand the law? This is marital property, of which I am entitled to half. The system retorts, no, you must put those down. Yen is a woman of dignity. She must work for her earnings and encounter the male counterpart along the way. Your actions are disrupting the narrative. I'm only taking one watch. I will still go to work. It won't affect the main plot. Should you fail to relinquish it, you will face mandatory punishment. Just as I engage in a verbal tussle with the system, a sudden commotion of footsteps echoes from outside the door. Startled, I clutch the watches tightly and spin around, hastily sliding into a hiding place beneath the bed. Just as I conceal myself, Gu Sion enters, enveloping Lin Yuru in his arms. The sound of her stilettos clacking against the floor reverberates loudly as she deliberately makes her presence known, calling out with feigned enthusiasm, Brother Sion, carry me. Having just been caught in the rain, a lock of my hair brushes against my nose, prompting an involuntary, loud sneeze. Achoo. The next moment, Gu Sion's voice, cold and tinged with anger, cuts through the air. Who's there? Come out. I remain still, feigning death. I will count to 3, 1. The system urges me as well. Host, don't do anything rash. Quickly apologize to Gu Sion, or I will impose a mandatory punishment. Reluctantly, I stash the watch and crawl out from beneath the bed, only to be met with Lin Yuru's furious gaze. Yen, you shameless harlot. Are you hiding here to seduce Brother Sion? Gu Sion's eyes, filled with murderous intent, fixate on me. An idea strikes me. Don't misunderstand. I'm not here to break you apart. I'm here to join you. Gu Sion and Lin Yuru freeze, And I let out a forced chuckle, moving to wrap my arm around Lin Yuru's shoulders. Didn't you shout every day that you can't do it alone? No worries. We are all on the same team here. I'll help share the burden. Lin Yuru is momentarily taken aback.
Who said we were teammates?
Oh, come on. We're all Gu Sion's women, aren't we? If we're not teammates, what are we? Rest assured, I'm quite the team player. I would never let you get out. Gu Sion finally loses his patience, his face darkening as he points a trembling finger toward the door. I shrug and make my way toward the exit. Well then, next time, we will collaborate as a team. However, before I can leave, my arm is seized. And Gu Sion's cold gaze pierces through Lin Yuru.
Leave.
Lin Yuru's eyes brim with tears, her lips quivering as she dares not defy Gu Sion's command, shooting me one last venomous glare before storming out in tears. Shameless, filthy harlot. Gu Sion slams the door shut, pushing me forcefully against it, his dark eyes swirling with tempestuous fury. Yen, is there nothing you want to do for money? Have you sunk this low? As he speaks, he lowers his head to bite my collarbone with a punishing force, causing me to dig my nails into the wall in pain. Suddenly, I recall that in the book, Gu Sion often behaved this way, humiliating Yen in public only to return home and vent his frustrations upon her. What a peculiar habit. As Gu Sion kisses my neck, his breath becoming ragged, I am overwhelmed with revulsion. Just as I lift my knee to deliver a decisive blow, the system interjects preemptively. Mandatory punishment, I immediately withdrew my legs, reasoning that it was no big deal after all. Gu Sion trailed kisses down my neck to my lips, and after a moment, he pulled back slightly, his face a picture of conflict as he gazed at me. Gu Sinyan's tongue grazed his back molars, licking around before slowly extending it, revealing a few tiny black fragments. He pinched those bits with his fingertips, squinting at them. I exhaled in relief. Goodness, that walnut shell has been lodged in me for ages. I couldn't pry it out even with my nails, and your mouth is more effective than a suction cup. I still have a bit stuck over here. Could you assist me once more? I opened my mouth wide and leaned closer to Gu Sinyan, but he immediately turned his head away and pushed me away forcefully. Get out. System. Since he told me to leave, is it all right if I go? System, no problem. Since that night, Gu Sinyan has ignored me for several consecutive days, and I relish the peace, desperately brainstorming ways to earn money. I pointed at a stately, ancient-looking Chinese fur outside the door and exclaimed, "Look, this Chinese fur is over 200 years old. Gu Sinyan spent 3 million to purchase it. What if I sell it and replace it with a cheaper tree, pocketing the difference?" The system unhesitatingly dismissed my idea, which made me quite irate. Can a mere tree really affect the main storyline? Host, don't engage in such nonsensical thoughts. Your time is limited. Hurry and find a job. I sensed something amiss. What did time is limited imply? After a prolonged struggle, the system finally revealed the truth to me. In 3 months, the female lead will die, and Gu Sinyan will spend the rest of his life in regret. My being here is cough against the rules, so it must not be discovered by the higher-ups. Your task is to keep the female lead alive without altering the main storyline. I was taken aback. What do you mean keeping her alive without changing the plot? For a year after your death, Gu Sinyan will frantically search for you, but it won't be until 3 years later that he finally gives up. By then, the storyline will have reached its conclusion. Therefore, as long as you survive these 3 years, what happens afterward is of no concern to the higher-ups. The system lamented. I detest these tragic stories. The so-called tragedy is merely tormenting the female lead alone, enduring humiliation only to end up dead, with the male lead's only form of retribution being regret. Regret? What a farce. Host, you have already perished in the real world. This is your sole opportunity to survive. So cherish it. The system implored me, and I fell into silence. Thus, accumulating wealth was no longer paramount. Following the storyline, seeking loopholes, and finding ways to survive became my utmost priority. The following day, I submitted my resume to Yanhua Real Estate Company. The hiring process went smoothly, but as I stepped into the office, I was taken aback. Lin Yuru sat behind a grand desk, holding my documents. Monthly salary of 8,000? Yen. As a distinguished overseas master's graduate, is this not a bit beneath your talents? How about this? You can be my personal assistant, and I'll offer you 20,000 a month. Indeed, Lin Yuru was the heiress of Yanhua Real Estate, and I had inadvertently found myself in her company, where I would inevitably endure considerable grievances. Taking a deep breath, I managed to muster a radiant smile for Lin Yuru. Sure thing, boss. During the afternoon meeting, Lin Yuru began her antics. After pouring tea, she lifted her cup to take a sip, only to wrinkle her brow in disgust. Yen Yen, are you trying to scald me? She said as she hoisted the cup, preparing to splash me. In a split second, I lunged forward, taking a large gulp from her cup and biting down on it. Boss, it's not hot at all. The temperature is just right. Lin Yuru, fuming. Lin Yuru grabbed a nearby colleague's cup and splashed it towards me. You little vixen, always making excuses to avoid doing your job. Just then, the conference room door swung open, and a commanding figure entered against the light. I stumbled and fell to the ground, my bangs soaked and plastered to my forehead as I bit my lip, glancing in that direction, softly murmuring, "Ah, how refreshing." The one who arrived was the president of Yanhua Real Estate, also Lin Yuru's brother, the male supporting character in this narrative, Lin Zian. My woeful visage, adorned with droplets of water, resembled a white hibiscus touched by dew in early March, epitomizing the essence of pitiful. At that moment, I was no longer Yen Yen, but Kaishobin Yen Yen. As expected, Lin Zian's pupils constricted momentarily as he extended his hand to help me up. Are you alright? I blinked up at him with feigned innocence. President, I am fine. Lin Yuru interjected, Brother, this wretch, enough, let her leave first. We can discuss this after the meeting. The meeting dragged on for quite some time, lasting until evening when Lin Zian exited the conference room and paused in front of me. Xiao Ro has a bad temper. Find an opportunity. I will transfer you to be my assistant. Indeed, the propensity for romantic folly is hereditary. That evening, Lin Yuru took me to a dinner gathering. Opposite me sat a portly, greasy middle-aged man, and Lin Yuru glanced at me before chuckling lightly. President Wang, this is my assistant, Yen Yen. Tonight's proposal. You should discuss it with her in detail. Yen Yen will surely satisfy you. She has extensive experience dealing with important clients. Her words were laden with insinuation, and President Wang's eyes immediately sparkled with interest. He leered at me from head to toe, raising his glass in a toast. Little Yen, the contract is easy to negotiate. Throughout the dinner, his gaze never strayed from me, and as we progressed, President Wang pretended to hold his head in discomfort. At my age, my health is failing. Just a little drink and I'm tipsy. How about this? I left the contract in my room. Why don't you come upstairs with me to retrieve it? I remained still, and Lin Yuru seized the opportunity to pull me aside. Don't worry, this man is just a bit handsy and opportunistic. He won't really do anything to you. How about this? If you go up with him, I'll cover the remaining costs for your father's surgery. This contract is crucial for the company. In the book, the female lead easily trusted Lin Yuru's words. Once upstairs, Lin Yuru would arrive with Gusinian to catch us in a compromising situation, creating the greatest misunderstanding and rift between them. Host, this is a pivotal plot point. You must go up with him. Fine. But you need to give me the money first. I retrieved my bank card and handed it to Lin Yuru. Transfer this amount, and once I receive it, I'll go. Lin Yuru scoffed. Yen Yen, I underestimated you. For money, you're willing to do anything. Once I received the bank notification, I leaned against President Wang's arm and guided him toward the elevator. Let's go, President Wang. He leaned half his body against me, his breath reeking of alcohol. Little Yen.
Heh.
I smiled back at him.
He.
Upon reaching the room, President Wang eagerly shed his shirt and rubbed his hands, looking at me. You take off your clothes. I nodded. All right, goodbye. With that, I turned to leave and the system panicked. Mandatory punishment warning. Mandatory punishment warning. As my hand grazed the doorknob, a surge of electricity coursed through my body. President Wang lunged at me, and I summoned all my strength to grip his hand. We both convulsed on the floor, akin to two grasshoppers bound by a string, the electric current surging through us. Who would have thought? The human body can conduct electricity. That was my clever strategy. After lying on the ground for a while, President Wang stared blankly at the ceiling, questioning his existence. I turned to him. Darling, I'm here. I propped myself up and crawled toward him, dark, menacing, and twisted. President Wang screamed, scrambling backward using all his limbs. Do not approach. Please do not come closer. At that moment, a hurried sound of footsteps echoed from outside the door, accompanied by Lin Yuru's sobs. I'm sorry, Brother Sinian. It's my fault for not watching over her. I warned her that Wang wasn't a good person, yet who would have thought that after we left the hotel, she would sneak upstairs all by herself for the sake of a commission.
Bang.
The door was forcefully thrown open as I lay beside Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang was shirtless, and I was disheveled, both of us panting heavily with our hair in disarray. Gu Xinian's eyes instantly reddened. He strode over, seized me, and struck me hard across the face. "You wretched woman." Gu Xinian then grasped my neck, his voice hoarse. "Yen Yen, how could you be so debased?" Lin Yuro frowned, glancing at Mr. Wang sprawled on the floor. "Mr. Wang, Yen Yen is a married woman. How can you behave like this?" "According to the original plot, Mr. Wang would vehemently deny his actions, asserting that I had seduced him, which would deepen the misunderstanding between Gu Xinian and me. However, Mr. Wang was clearly stunned, shaking his head desperately to clarify. "I didn't, I swear. Nothing happened between us." Lin Yuro was taken aback, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Do you think we're fools? If nothing happened, why are your clothes off?" Mr. Wang grew anxious. "It was too hot in the room. I took my clothes off. It has nothing to do with her. I only brought her here to sign a contract. We truly did nothing." "Miss Yen, please explain this to them." Gu Xinian tugged at my collar, and I turned my head away in indignation, refusing to look at him. "Forget it. Let him think whatever he wants." Mr. Wang was on the verge of tears, glaring fiercely at Lin Yuro. "I don't care what you two are up to. Don't associate her with me. Mr. Gu, I have always been upright. You cannot cast such slander upon me." Mr. Wang's expression was frantic, and he regarded me with an air of someone wanting to avoid me at all costs. Gu Xinian paused for a moment, his tightly furrowed brows relaxing. Seizing the opportunity, Mr. Wang hastily signed the contract and thrust it into my hands. "Miss Yen, I cherish my reputation. To avoid suspicion, please have someone else from the company handle matters with me in the future. I truly do not wish to see you again." I questioned the system in my mind. Since he insisted on clarifying, doesn't that mean I haven't altered the plot? System. It doesn't count, I suppose. Upon exiting the hotel, Lin Yuro wore a perplexed expression, while Gu Xinian disregarded her completely, forcefully shoving me into the car. "You're a disgrace. Go home." As the car door slammed shut, Gu Xinian grasped my chin, his dark eyes intense. "Yen Yen, for the sake of money, is anyone fair game?" I remained silent, and as Gu Xinian leaned closer, the scent of alcohol surged within me, resulting in an audible belch, the mixture of food and drink wafting onto Gu Xinian's face. Although I could not resist Gu Xinian, I had always found ways to repulse him, hoping he would abandon the idea of touching me. Yet surprisingly, Gu Xinian seemed like a different person that night. Regardless of how much I belched or blew air towards him, he remained unfazed. Upon returning home, he dragged me into the bathroom, forcefully making me gargle mouthwash, then tossed me into the bathtub, turning on the shower to douse me with cold water. My wrinkled coat lay discarded on the floor. My white shirt clung to my body, revealing glimpses of my alabaster skin. Gu Xinian's gaze darkened as he seized my neck, leaning in closer. His kiss was cold and domineering, imbued with an icy chill, and I unmistakably sensed something amiss within me. I gasped in shock. "Leave the chicken for the person," Gu Xinian muttered. I grasped Gu Xinian's hand as he fumbled with my buttons. "Gu Xinian, do you love me?" He froze, his pupils dilating slightly, a chaotic disarray evident in his expression.
"Ha, love.
"Yen Yen, you are merely a substitute, a dog I purchased with money. Do you think you are worthy of speaking of love?" I scoffed. "If you do such things to a dog, your tastes are rather peculiar."
Gu Xinian.
"Lin Yuro is right there. Why do you persist in tormenting me? Your substitute? Do you even believe what you're saying?" I whispered into his ear. "Gu Xinian, the day you lose me will be the day you regret it for a lifetime." Gu Xinian recoiled as if burned, taking a large step back and releasing me. "Yen Yen, you certainly think too highly of yourself." Fuming, Gu Xinian stormed out, and I lay back in the bathtub, filling it with warm water, exhaling a long breath. In the days that followed, as if to prove how little he cared for me, Gu Xinian's demeanor towards me worsened, while he began to shower Lin Yuro with even more attention. Lin Yuro was quite pleased and summoned me into her office. "Yen Yen, arrange this bouquet." It was a grand bouquet of 99 red roses, sent early in the morning by Gu Xinian. As Lin Yuro gleefully admired the flowers, she mocked me. "A counterfeit is still a counterfeit. No matter what tricks you employ, Brother Xinian's heart belongs to me." The moment my fingers brushed the roses, she suddenly grabbed a nearby ashtray and swung it forcefully at my head. Anticipating her move, I swiftly raised a stack of documents from the table to shield myself. The papers flew, scattering across the floor as Lin Xian entered the room. Feigning ignorance, I lowered my head, appearing pitiful as I gathered the documents. The president's proposal was indeed flawless. "Vice President Lin, you are being overly critical. You cannot belittle someone's hard work like this." Lin Yuro was furious. "What nonsense are you spouting? You shameless wretch. Stop pretending. She lunged at me, but Lin Zian shielded me with his body. He glanced down at the scattered documents, recognizing the proposal he had signed earlier that morning. Lin Zian frowned. If you are so dissatisfied with her, then let her come work for me. Brother. Lin Yuro stomped her foot, then suddenly changed her tune. Fine. Take her away. I don't want to see her for a second longer. Lin Zian had a reputation as a playboy, changing girlfriends monthly. Now that he seemed interested in me, Lin Yuro was eager for us to become involved, so she could report back to Gu Xinian. That afternoon, I moved my materials into Lin Zian's office. System. Host. I must warn you. You are dangerously treading the line lately. I retorted. Be quiet. The plot requires me to enter Lin Zian's office. So, why must I suffer for it? System. Suffering is meant to evoke sympathy and awaken Lin Zian's protective instincts, increasing his affection towards you. The system glanced at Lin Zian's affection meter, promptly falling silent. In Lin Zian's office, there was a display case showcasing several trophies, alongside a photo. In the picture, Lin Zian was clad in swim trunks, revealing his well-defined abs, triumphantly holding a trophy and waving to the crowd. A spark of realization ignited within me. This is wonderful. Lin Zian appears to excel at swimming. In 3 months, Lin Yuro would attempt to push me off a cliff into the sea. I must learn to swim within that time frame to have a chance of survival. I gasped, covering my mouth. Oh my president, you are truly remarkable. I've always wanted to learn swimming. Could you teach me? Lin Zian was taken aback. You genuinely want to learn? Rarely do I meet a girl interested in this. I nodded enthusiastically, gazing at him with admiration. I absolutely want to learn. Please, you must teach me. Lin Zian's eyes sparkled with delight as he reassuringly patted my back. Yen Yen, among all the girls I know, you are the only one interested in diving. Rest assured, I will teach you well. Wait, diving? I must be out of my mind to want to learn diving. Tears welled in my eyes as I desperately called upon the system in my mind. Electrocute me. Punish me. I do not wish to learn diving. The system reveled in my predicament. Lin Zian's feelings for you are steadily increasing. The details of your interactions in the book are merely glossed over. Once you've accumulated enough affection, it does not contravene the main storyline. Lin Zian, a man of unwavering resolve, immediately took me to the mall after work to purchase professional equipment, and then to his private swimming pool. Before diving, one must first learn to swim, and Lin Zian earnestly taught me. I could only grit my teeth and endure. After all, I had no money, and this was a free opportunity to learn how to swim. I could always concoct an excuse to avoid diving later on. I was exceedingly busy every day, working during the day and learning to swim at night, returning home with damp hair and having changed clothes. Gu Xinian immediately sensed something amiss. One day, as I returned home with my hair still half dry, he called out to me. He sat on the couch in the dimly lit living room, smoking a cigar, the faint glow of embers illuminating his face. What have you been busy with lately? I was reluctant to engage in conversation with him and hastily found an excuse. Learning a new skill. Gu Xinian's brow twitched, extinguishing his cigar in the ashtray. What skill? I began to ramble nonsensically. Synchronized swimming. Since you love bathtubs so much, I plan to perform a routine for you next time in the tub. Suddenly, Gu Xinian erupted in anger, sweeping everything off the coffee table with a crash. He pulled a stack of photographs from his pocket and tossed them onto the table, gritting his teeth. Are you learning from Lin Zian? As the lights flickered on, Gu Xinian strode toward me, grabbing my hair and dragging me to the couch, throwing me onto the floor with force. I landed awkwardly, hair falling into my face, letting out a soft ah that hurts. Upon realizing it was Gu Xinian, not Lin Zian, before me, I could only sulkily close my mouth and lean over to examine the photographs on the coffee table. Indeed, they were scenes of my recent time spent with Lin Zian. Unmistakably the handiwork of Lin Yuro. Yen Yen, you truly are distasteful. Gu Xinian looked at me with a cold, disdainful expression. I rolled my eyes. What exactly do you want from me? If you dislike me so much, why not just divorce me? Divorce? Not a chance. Gu Xinian stood up, his face darkening as he approached me. I scrambled to my feet and fled. Surprised, Gu Xinian hesitated for a moment before chasing after me, and we began to circle the sofa like a game of cat and mouse. I felt exhilarated as I ran. Indeed, the swimming lessons had not been in vain. My lung capacity had significantly improved, and I wasn't even out of breath. After a few laps, Gu Xinian likely felt the embarrassment of being outmatched and stopped in his tracks, his face a deep shade of anger. Yen Yen, come here. I stood my ground, recalling the storyline where Lin Zian had ignited Gu Xinyan's fierce jealousy. He would strike me and then, in a fit of rage, confine me at home, forbidding me from going out. I had no desire to follow that plot. I raised my hands. Gu Xinian, let us talk this through. Don't hit me. And I won't run. How does that sound? Gu Xinian remained expressionless as I pleaded earnestly. If you dare to hit me, I'll take pictures and say you're abusing me, posting them on social media. Your company as stock will plummet. That would surely affect millions, wouldn't it? It's not worth it over something so trivial. As I continued to ramble, Gu Xinian suddenly leaned on the sofa with one hand, effortlessly leaping over it, and then seized my neck with one hand. I quickly raised my hands to shield my face, but he lowered his head and kissed me. This kiss was not the brutality I had anticipated. It was tender and lingering, imbued with an indescribable feeling. I was taken aback, memories of when we first got together flashing through my mind. Yan Yan and Gu Xinian had met through an arranged marriage. At that time, the Yan group had not yet collapsed, and Yan Yan was still the cherished princess in everyone's eyes. She had fallen for Gu Xinian at first sight, and after their marriage, they had experienced a brief period of happiness. However, when the Yan group suddenly went bankrupt, dragging the Gu family down with it, Gu Xinian had harshly questioned her if it had all been premeditated. Later, with Lin Yuro's return, the two drifted further apart. Sighing, I thought to myself, if anyone is to blame, it is you for being so foolish as to be toyed with by a mere supporting character, oblivious to how much wealth you had amassed. I pushed Gu Xinian away, though he did not budge, and I chuckled lightly. Gu Xinian, admit it, you love me. As expected, Gu Xinian immediately released me as if shocked, his face darkening as he coldly commanded, Get out. Get out of here. After heading upstairs, I overheard Gu Xinian calling Lin Yuro. She arrived shortly, purposefully making a commotion upstairs, and I covered my ears, enjoying a peaceful night's sleep. It seemed that my threat of taking photos had intimidated Gu Xinian, as he had refrained from being violent with me lately. At the office, Lin Yuro continued to seek opportunities to make my life difficult. I managed to navigate these challenges without significant loss, intentionally calling my lawyer in front of her. Lawyer Zhou, what should I do if I want a divorce but my husband refuses? Property? Oh, I don't care about property. I just want to stop living with him. He agree. Is suing effective? He just can't let me go. It's so annoying. Lin Yuro screamed, rushing over to sweep my phone out of my hand. Yan Yan, what nonsense are you spewing? Brother Xinian doesn't like you at all. He only has eyes for me. I scoffed. Don't be naive. If he liked you, why wouldn't he marry you? Can't you think for a moment? I'm now utterly broke. The Yan family would only drag the Gu family down. And he doesn't want to let go. And what about you? Your Lin family is so wealthy. If Gu Xinian married you, the Gu family would surely ascend to new heights. He is such a pragmatist. If he didn't choose you, do you not understand? Lin Yuro's face turned pale, her lips trembling as she angrily swung her hand at me. I swiftly dodged to the side, her hand swiping the air. It's impossible, impossible. Don't daydream. Brother Xinian, doesn't he love you at all? Her words seemed to snap the last thread in Lin Yuro's mind, and at last, she resolved to take action against me. That day, as I left the office, I was suddenly grabbed from behind, my nose covered. I was kidnapped and taken to a cliff, where I made no effort to struggle. The kidnapper called Gu Xinian, demanding a ransom, and he arrived in a flash. The wind was fierce atop the cliff, my skirt billowing as I smiled at Gu Xinian. Gu Xinian, don't save me. His eyes were red-rimmed, and for the first time, I saw such a humble expression on his face. I beg you, let her go. I'll pay any amount. I stepped back, secretly cutting the ropes with a blade hidden in my sleeve. Gu Xinian, living is exhausting. Goodbye. I cast one last glance at the tumultuous waves below, opening my arms as I began to fall. As I plummeted, I protected my head with one hand and cradled my abdomen with the other, twisting in the air to execute a perfect dive into the sea, creating a small splash. Discarding the highest score of 98 and the lowest of 96, Lin Zian in the distance gave me a thumbs up. Yan Yan, you truly are the most talented diver I've ever taught. I rolled my eyes and paddled forward. You've only taught me one. Ahead, the sea shimmered a deep blue, like an expansive canvas of freedom. 3 years later, I returned to my home country. I encountered Gu Xinian at a banquet. He stared at me in disbelief, his wine glass slipping from his hand, his gaze burning with intensity as he rushed over to grasp my arm. Yan Yan, it's you? I patted the person beside me, introducing Gu Xinian. This is my former husband. Hello, senior. The young man beside me politely shook Gu Xinyan's hand. I look forward to your guidance. There's much I need to learn from you. Oh, dear. I waved my hand dismissively, shaking my head. Do not emulate him. His skills are merely mediocre. Do not forsake the good to learn the bad. Gu Xinyan clenched his fists, standing rooted in place, his face a canvas of alternating hues of pale and flushed, nearly incredulous at the sight before him. His lips trembled as he cast a pleading glance in my direction. Yan, what are you doing? You are only seeking revenge against me, aren't you? The events of that year were all misunderstandings. It was my fault. Over the past 3 years, Gu Xinyan had frantically sought me out, investigating the circumstances surrounding the bankruptcy of the Gu family. He ultimately discovered that all the evidence that led him to believe I had schemed to approach him was fabricated by Lin Yuru. He was entirely unaware of my father's heart condition and the impending surgery. Gu Xinyan, infuriated, retaliated against Lin Yuru with a vengeance. In recent years, the Lin family had been driven to the brink of bankruptcy under the Gu family's oppression. Yet, he was oblivious to the fact that all of this was orchestrated by Lin Xian, who adeptly seized the opportunity presented to him. Lin Xian and Lin Yuru shared the same father but had different mothers. He had been unable to extricate himself from the board's constraints. Seizing the moment, Lin Xian had transferred a significant portion of their wealth abroad, leaving the Lin family to contend with a shattered legacy. The internal strife within the Lin family was far more intricate than I had imagined. As I departed from the gala, Gu Xinyan pursued me. I am sorry, Yan. I love you. I simply have never dared to admit it. I provoked you with Lin Yuru to elicit jealousy, to witness your fervor for me. Yan. I have always loved you. I merely went about it the wrong way. Will you grant me another chance? I impatiently gestured for the window to be rolled up. Gu Xinyan, I truly have no interest in you. Could you please cease your incessant bother? How pathetic. Gu Xinyan obstructed my vehicle, and in a flash of inspiration, I shone my high beams at him, leaning out of the window to yell, Is this how you engage in deceit? Security. Someone call security. The guards promptly removed Gu Xinyan from my path, and I drove away with a sense of liberation. It would be a long time before Gu Xinyan comprehended that the antonym of love is not hate, but indifference. To Gu Xinyan, I might have held significant importance. To me, he was no different from a stranger. The tranquility in my gaze left him utterly despondent. Lin Yuru, consumed by jealousy as Gu Xinyan devoted his attention to me, eventually lost her sanity and stabbed him in a fit of rage. The two families reached a clandestine settlement, and Lin Xian took Lin Yuru abroad. Gu Xinyan lay in a hospital bed for an extended period, and I visited him. A glimmer of hope shone in his eyes as he struggled to sit up, his gaze fixed intently upon me. Yan. I presented him with a stack of documents for his signature. Your cancellation of my household registration was orchestrated by you when I went missing. Now, it needs to be reinstated. Please sign here. Gu Xinyan readily acquiesced. After signing, he appeared remarkably rejuvenated. He sat at the head of the bed, gazing out the window where the April sun shone gently, perhaps allowing hope to blossom anew within his heart. With the household registration restored, Yan, we were never divorced. You are still my wife, are you not? I nodded. Of course. After all, the doctor had said he had little time left to live. Once he passed, I would inherit his entire estate and live a life of unparalleled joy. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking to show your support.
Until we meet again in the next story.